This episode is brought to you by Auto Hauler Exchange.
Now, that store was selling 100 cars a month for 25 years. And literally within 90 days, we started selling 240, 250 cars, maintained probably close to 300 for 5 years before she sold the store.
Hey guys, welcome back to this episode of the Dealer Playbook Podcast. We're about to head into a new year, and if you could reset anything, it's going to be what we talk about in this episode of the podcast. Stay tuned. Louie, my man, what's going on, brother?
Man, how are you doing, Mike?
Excellent. It's been we saw each other often, and then we went through a season where we didn't see each other often.
I know.
And now I feel like we're back to seeing each other often again.
I know. It's a beautiful thing, and my heart has been bruised that we had that gap. But you know, as life can take its tolls, we go in different directions certain times. But it's a pleasure to be back on with you. I know. Well, how long was it? The last time I was on the podcast, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2020, something like that.
Long?
It's been that long that you've left me in the dark, baby.
I love this. People need to know. People need to know that I moved, and you had been sitting there texting my Canadian phone number for Lord knows how long.
That's true.
And I can't even imagine. I mean, there's some dark comedy in there. Just this idea of, you know, that meme where they put the rain on the screen and the sad violin music of you like texting me and not getting responses, and then just I felt like I was the old I was the one being broken up with, you know, like all my attachment theories, my anxious preoccupied, my fearful avoidant, my dismissive avoidant was all showing up all in kind of crazy ways, trying to like, why is he not texting me back? But yeah, you changed your number. I'm doing what apparently the Cirillo legacy is. We immigrate. That's what Cirillos do. We immigrate. So I moved my way down to Texas, got all set up, got reset up, and then somehow I think you finally just reached out on Facebook Messenger and you were like, where are you?
I did, bro. And I was glad to connect with you. But more importantly, I was glad that you were like, not like, yeah, Louie, I didn't just disband you. Like, my number changed and I'm doing business and what's going on with you? You know, so I felt great about that. But no, all is good, sir.
This will be the first tip that we share with people, because we try and make the playbook. We tried to make the playbook more of a playbook. Again, we had kind of gone more conversational, but the first tip is, guys, make sure your contacts, if you have an iPhone, are saved to iCloud and not to the SIM card. Because when you move countries and you get a new phone number and a new SIM card, you lose everything. You lose everything. So I had nobody in my phone, but I want to dig into this a little bit. The last time you were on the show, we talked a lot about, you know, your history in the car business, which runs deep. You've owned stores, you've managed stores, you've pretty much worked in every position in the dealership. So your vantage point on especially leadership and operational efficiency, I want to dig into here. Now you're in and out of dealerships, consulting and training and teaching them how to really take people, you know, from whatever tier or line they're at and progress them to that next step in a very strategic way. But I want to ask you this to kick things off. We're moving into a new year. There's new energy around the country, whether good or bad or indifferent. But there's, you know, this tends to happen as we move into a new year, where there's kind of new energy around, okay, what do I do to make the most of 2025 at time of recording this? We're moving into 2025. What can I do to up the ante? And so I want to start off with this question. As you're going into stores, or as you had become a leader in the stores that you owned, or whatever, what was the number one most common challenge, or what is the number one most common challenge you see that if a dealer just kind of like dialed into it a little bit and tweaked it, they would start seeing some recognizable shifts in a positive way?
Well, that's a loaded question, and I think it has many answers. However, when you say what's the one thing, I'm not certain there's one, but let me bring you back. I've had the privilege of probably taking over, I would say, 8 to 10 broken stores that I purchased for myself to operate and own and run, or I took over as a general manager. So when I involve myself with every one of those equations, there's a couple things that happen. Number one, it's a strong vision of an expectation of what's going to happen. Now, when you go into a situation where a store's not doing well, or you currently have an operation that's not doing well, I think one of the main things we've got to do is we've got to set the tone of like what's going to happen. Once we do that, immediately you've got to have social proof. In other words, if a store is doing 120, 140, 160 cars a month, and I'm telling you, we will get to 250. We will get to 250. And here's how we're going to do it. You lay out that vision, right? Getting your managers enrolled, your sales team enrolled. Now, mind you, with this whole philosophy, you're going to have naysayers in the organization. When I've gone into stores, Michael, honestly, I remember when I bought into Taylor Toyota in North Augusta. I remember when the owner was introducing me as a partner operator, I gave my little spiel, and I had a guy by the name of Raymond Surratt. God bless you, Raymond, if you're watching. But Raymond Surratt had been there for probably 20 years, and he looked at me after I was done in front of everybody. He said, Louie, in some country accent, 11 tried and 11 died. You'll be the next, right? Now, that store was selling 100 cars a month for 25 years. And I'm telling them we're going to do 250, 300 cars a month, Toyota franchise, right? Across the street was a Circle K and a broken down rodeo that had been non existent on Highway 78, which was a destination point. And so it was my job to make sure that I was going to let them know, boom, we're going to rock this thing. And literally within 90 days, we started selling 240, 250 cars, maintained probably close to 300 for 5 years before she sold the store. Now, what was the difference? The difference was attitude. Yes, I brought a couple of guys with me that were processed up on how we were going to make some change in the store. But you got to set a vision, and then you got to get social proof. Michael, if I'm telling you your business is going to grow, you're telling your team we're going to grow by 5x, 10x. If you don't get social proof in 45, 60, 90 days, guess what? The belief of your vision now perishes. But if you can get that vision, if you can lay the tone, and then you can actually show, hey guys, look at the lead count, look at the closure, look at the gross margins, look what we're doing. Thank you. Look at what you have produced, not me as the leader. Look what you have done. I told you we could do it, and look what you're doing. If you can flip the script and get your team to enroll themselves in knowing they're a part of that growth, it's almost like when you and I start a community together, whether it's
Right.
the podcast, and we got a community, you're getting people enrolled in the vision, and when they see it transpire, they feel part of the growth, right? And you and I both know, as a leader, you take all the responsibility when it's not going well, and you give all the credit to the when it's going well to your people. If you're
Right.
doing it right.
Right.
So I think that's a big thing when you say, what's the one thing? Man, for me, if I go into any operation, the first thing I'm looking for the vision. I'm looking for where we're at and what's the number where we can go. And then I'm looking for social proof. And then from that point, we're going to dial into the specifics, of the operation.
There's a couple of things I want to unpack here.
Yeah.
The first one is that I think most operators, most dealers or managers in our industry are not clear on the vision. And so that's kind of a lead into the second thing that I want to unpack with you. They don't have a vision beyond sell more cars. Like, that is, if we looked at a vision document for most dealers right now, it would be sell more cars. And you and I both know that's superficial. It's, how do I rally people around sell more cars? And to your point, because we don't have historical social proof that it's even possible. And then you dig into that and you realize there's no processes and procedures. There's no, everything becomes a cascade of a weak vision.
Right.
So what I want to ask you is, you came into these stores with a strong, you said you need a strong vision. What do I do to develop a vision that goes beyond sell more cars?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. First of all, you got to have the acumen to do that. In other words, if I'm looking at, I'll give it, let's go back to Taylor Toyota. This store was doing 100 units a month. Now, and I could give you 4 or 5 examples: World Toyota, Legacy Toyota, Team Honda, Lithia Springs, Atlanta, Georgia. I could give you the replica in almost every single scenario. at the end of the day, volume increases service retention. Service retention increases profitability. Profitability allows you to sell more cars 2 years, 3 years down the road. It's a circle, right? So some people are like, well, why are we taking some of these deals? Why are we taking shorter deals? Well, first of all, we don't have to take shorter deals if our people are trained. If we're trained properly, we don't have to. However, in the end, if I've got a buyer, I'm taking the deal because long-term strategy, I get service retention. Once I get service retention, I get back in the flow of getting sales retention. And at the end of the day, it's a whole global perspective of the whole store, right? It's not just one piece of just selling from variable. It's having the understanding of how fixed plays a part with variable, how they intertwine together. And I think I think dealers are very familiar over the last 5 to 6 years. They're like light bulbs have come on, like, oh man, we can actually actually make profit in the service department at a large magnitude. And it's not just the back end, it's actually the foundation if we can create that. And then that's where we have the problem with technicians. And now we're talking about service training advisors and customer experience and wait times and all these things now are like, whoa, we can really, because there's a whole nother business that intertwines with selling these cars on the front end.
Right.
And look, market share is important, right? You've got to get your market share. Exceeding market share is exceptional. And I think as an operator, if you have a long-term focus, like not the short range 2 year, 3 year, if you can really dial in and be like, look, if the store is selling 1,000 or 1,200 new cars, 100 cars a month, or 2,400 cars a year, and I take that to 3,600 cars or 3,000 cars a year, and I'm getting a visit by that consumer every 7 months, right? It used to be 2 times a year, 2.5 times a year. Now I'm getting them, 1.8 times a year. And I do that math towards my RO count. I look at the service increase, right? Again, exponentially, you think you're losing a few dollars on the front. You're really not. You're really growing the business over time at a huge, substantial level. If you can get the retention up, keep your CSI scores up, next thing you know, because of that increase of market share and service retention, guess what? Honda's coming to you as a dealer going, hey, I got a point. You want to buy this point? Right. So again, we're looking at the short going, we're taking shorter deals. No, man, you're building your business over the long haul. And if you've got the right perspective, you can make a huge impact.
Hey, before we continue with this episode, I want to take a minute to thank this episode's sponsor, Auto Hauler Exchange. Brokers are overcharging and taking forever to ship vehicles. That's a fact. Auto Hauler Exchange is the solution. They eliminate brokers from vehicle logistics by connecting shippers and carriers directly through their online marketplace. Pretty cool. With over 5,000 highly vetted carriers on the exchange, dealers can turn vehicles quicker and open up entirely new markets for buying and selling vehicles. Sounds like a godsend. On average, it takes 5 days from a time a dealer lists a vehicle on the exchange to when it arrives at its destination. I mean, speed to market, people. Speed to market. So let me ask you, how long are your vehicles taking to ship? And if you don't know, that's probably another reason for you to try Auto Hauler Exchange. You get analytics, you get reporting, and it's all going to help you better understand your shipping costs and timelines. Talk about transparency. And guess what? It's completely free to list your vehicles. The exchange takes a transparent 10% fee for shipping with no hidden fees. The price you pay, minus the 10% fee, is the amount that Auto Hauler Exchange is paying to the carrier. Get your vehicles moving faster today and talk with someone from the Auto Hauler Exchange team to get set up with a shipper account. Visit autohaulerexchange.com to get more information. All right, let's pop back to this episode. Let me ask you this. Because I mean, you're speaking my language. I mean, anybody that follows this show follows it because they know that I would rather have strategic forward motion, consistent strategic forward motion, than what so much of our industry subscribes to, this addiction to violent forward motion.
Right.
Violent forward motion to me is such a challenge because you're so addicted to the next short, fast, gritty thing that you don't realize what you're destroying behind you, that at some point, whether you like it or not, or know it or not, are going to have to go back and fix.
Right.
You're talking about a very strategic play forward that is considering the entire playing field. And you know, I love what you just said about like, you're not, you're not giving up gross,
No,
you know, and they all
no.
tend to think that because I think so much of our industry, vendors, so on and so forth, are focused on variable operations kind of in its own exclusive thing. But let's be honest. I mean, most stores are, dare I say, hand to mouth. A lot of times, like you look at the majority of stores, and there's a very real sense of, if we don't fix something now, 2 months down the road, we're going to be in a real tight spot. It's going to be real
Right,
rough.
right.
Allocations will go down. Floor plan will get shuffled. Like all these things, they're living so close to the wire. So to come in and convince someone of this longer term play, how do you balance the short play versus the long play and ultimately move them in the direction of the long play in a way that they understand? Hey, like we got to do this.
Yeah. Well. First of all, I truly believe the separation's in the preparation. The gap between those that are great and those that are good and those that are average is in the preparation. So understanding when you're looking at a year calendar or you're looking at a quarterly calendar, the stores that typically thrive are the ones that have pre-planned and mapped out exactly what it's supposed to look like and have shared that with management, and management has shared that with the dealership. So they're all on the same page. I believe personally, as an operator, I don't care if it's my little old Chrysler dealership in Madison, Georgia that I used to own, or whether it was my Toyota dealership in Milledgeville, Georgia that I used to own. These little tiny little stores selling 150 cars a month, right? In these tiny little towns. Baby, let me tell you something, Michael. The first of the year, we're at the Marriott breaking bread, all employees, I mean, accounting, internet, technicians, and it's my job to put the State of the Union. We come back again in July, do it again. Because do I want to share with them the numbers and the vision? Yes. But leadership development is personal development. So if I can, as a leader, help my team develop personally, then from professionally, I'll get all I want out of them. Once they know I love them, I care about them, and they're involved in what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. At the end of the day, you know how many people that in my stores had vices, had issues, marital issues. You want to talk about not moving the needle? Talk about a sales rep or a technician that's got problems at the house. He's not going to perform at the highest possible level in the store. It's not happening. So as a leader, do I want to be their pastor, their preacher, their psychologist, their therapist? No, I don't. However, my door is always open. And when I can connect with those people and join the two together and say, hey, listen, I know you're going through it. And hopefully, more than likely, I've gone through it. So I can have a relatable story to connect with them, to get them off and going into another direction. That's what propels the store at another level above and beyond the processes, because those are the things that are going on in the peripheral, right, Michael? Behind the scenes, we've got this as a leader vision painted for these people to go to the next level. But are we paying attention to what's going on within the store? Are we paying attention to what's going on from the receptionist to the technician to the office clerk to the office manager to the sales manager, the GSM? We got to be perceptive of what's going on to help these guys go to another level. And it requires a connection at another level. Like, let me give you an example. I don't know Alex Flores. I think you do very well, correct? I'm gonna bring his name in the equation.
Okay.
I'm just telling you from a perception standpoint, the guy's connected to his people. The guy's connected to his people. I can see that in his heart. I can see that in his. That to me, I don't know Alex personally. I know of him through social media, comment on his stuff. Seems to be a phenomenal guy. Could be fooled. My point is, he seems to get it. And consequently, it looks like he's growing at a very large capacity. And I think largely because of the connection that he has personally with his people that's tied to the vision he has with his people. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. You see, there's two things here that I think as human beings, we have to reconcile. There's the side of things from what you said. Your perception of him is that he's connected to his people. Therefore, there's growth. The flip side of it that we have to reconcile against is, and I think people have a hard time with this one, is person who's more of a like, a machete out, clear a path, violent, this and that, who don't really connect with their people and still seem to get ahead. I think our human brains want reconciliation between these two things. how do you recommend they do that to understand their growth does happen in both ways, but one is more sustainable than the other?
Yeah, I mean, again, we're again, this is subjective, right? So it's like I'm not the leader that's the bulldozer, right? That's not my style. So for me to criticize the bulldozer that gets results would be, I wouldn't call it inappropriate, would be inaccurate because we know that some people succeed by bulldozing. Okay, long term though, long term, sustaining a team, sustaining connection, sustaining the passion for the growth, cumulatively as a team, the bulldozer type mentality, the dictator, it tends to run its course. Now, what keeps that particular leader in play is if the results are at a high level, the people consequently make a nice check. If they make a nice check, the human nature of the being will put up with the bullshit, so to speak. Forgive my language. They'll put up with it for a minute or a year or 2 years because the store's succeeding because of the direction he puts in place or the advertising promotion.
Right.
It doesn't mean that that's a sustainable business, though. It doesn't mean that that's going to be something that 10 years from now, 20 years from now is still solid as a rock. Because again, you know as well as I do, like it talks about in the good book, you got to build a foundation, right? So when the rains come, the storms come, you've got something so the house not going to blow down. What's that foundation? Um, Again, the foundation for solid leaders, again, I don't even want to discriminate because there's so many different leadership styles. But at the end of the day, my personal belief is there's got to be a foundation that is created above and beyond what you see personally as your own personal satisfaction. There's got to be something that benefits the employee, benefits the consumer. That ultimately, because those two things are benefited, you get benefited, and that's hard to see sometimes when you're doing business.
Well, I'll discriminate for you, Louie. Uh, I believe in the laws of the universe.
Right.
And uh, we know that the universe follows a law, and it's what keeps the planets moving in their order, and it's what keeps the sun rising and setting, and the tides going in and the tides going out. Well, I would attribute some of that universal law to the fact that each of us are born into this world somehow knowing, and this is, I'm not even going to bring religion or anything into it, but somehow knowing dishonesty is not good.
Correct.
Being a dick, not good. Like, these are just things we naturally come into the world. Like, has nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with what part of the world you were born in. Like,
Right.
Earlier this year, in February of this year, believe it or not, I went to Pakistan. And when I told people in America that I was traveling to Pakistan, including my life insurance company, who said, if you go there and anything happens, everything will be void and we will not pay out a cent because it's this type of a country or whatever, right?
Right.
When you say discrimination, you know what I experienced over there? Calmness like a bright summer morning. The
Really.
kindest, most hospitable people I've ever met in my entire life. What's my point? Universal truth. Dishonesty, not good. Don't resonate with. Honesty, good.
Yeah.
Resonate with. Build rapport, build trust, good. I mean, like, look at the why we even shake hands. Not a lot of people know like why we even shake hands, and it was literally to prove that we were not going to kill you.
Right.
Because like
Right.
that's my trigger hand. So I would extend the hand that I would pull the trigger with to show you I am not,
Right.
I can be trusted. Oh, trust, universal truth. Good. Where am I going with this? We have more than enough historical examples of bulldozers who have higher attrition, fact, who still make a lot of money, fact, who lose everything that they care about eventually at some point. They lose their top performers. They lose. Why? Because people go insane. They go absolutely bonkers. Like you even said it. You were trying to be so diplomatic, and I'm coming through with the Italian
Hey,
smack
I'm
across the
Italian too,
face.
but I was holding mine in.
But the reality of it is, I want to be clear too. I don't hate these people. I got nothing against them. We are simply speaking to a leadership style that, to your point, is more sustainable, that keeps a tighter unit, longer relationships, lower turnover, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll tell you what, like now that I work alongside our CRO, who's a 20-year retired Marine combat veteran, if he had to choose going into battle with his squad, who he knows, who he trained with, who has trust with, who he's gotten to know for a long time, who they've developed processes together, versus going into combat with some new guy that hasn't quite, he's going to pick the person that he's got longevity with. And I think the same thing in business. Do I want an environment where I have to keep learning somebody new and somebody new has to keep learning me and there's always a disconnect? Or would I rather invest my time, talents, and abilities into building a team that trusts one another, that loves one another, that has each other's backs, that knows the processes, that bought into the vision, and who shows up to work to fight every single day because they know why they're fighting?
So, Michael, I'm going to give you, so this is a perfect segue. I'm getting ready to give you, we're talking about these two different leaders. Let me give you the nugget to the audience that's listening. Here's $1 million nugget. And Michael, you could run with this for a little bit, but the difference in leadership is understanding what I call the success wheel. This is something that whether I'm in a store, coaching, teaching, training, or my own dealership, we're all looking. I want you to visualize there's 4 boxes, right? The last box is the outcome, the success. Prior to that box is actions. We all agree we got to take massive action to get the outcome we're looking for. Got it. We're on the same page. Come below that box, you've got what's called thoughts. Well, thoughts create emotions. Emotions create energy and action, which creates that next move. But prior to the self-conversation and thoughts is beliefs. The beliefs is what has to change in a car dealership, and a family, a mortgage business, real estate. It doesn't matter. But the beliefs are equated to stories. So what happens is, if I go into a new dealership, or if I'm consulting with a dealership, or I'm training salespeople, there are a certain amount of stories attached to the beliefs, to the activities of follow-up, using video, social media campaign, working service to sales, you name it. There is a certain amount of beliefs. Until those beliefs and those stories are not changed to the outcome we're looking for, it doesn't matter what I coach and teach them. I can give them scripts, I can memorize flashcards, closing techniques. If the beliefs don't change, the thoughts don't change. If the thoughts don't change, the emotions don't change. If the emotions don't change, then the actions they take are not going to create the outcome they're looking for. So and the thing about this success wheel, beliefs, thoughts, actions, and outcomes, it works positively or negatively. It's all subconscious. Consciously, a salesperson knows I need to make phone calls. I need to talk to somebody in service. I need to get referrals. I need to data mine. Consciously, he knows the avenues. And then if I give him and deliver him the scripts, the managers, the processes to keep accountability, we go from awareness to understanding. But if the beliefs don't change of the effort that I put forth will get me or yield me a result, I won't make the change. The stories associated with the activities is the crux. When I can convince and persuade and motivate and inspire a team or an individual to change beliefs, which is not a conscious thing. This is a story that's built way, way deep. And I can get into attachment theory, whether it's anxious, preoccupied, dismissive, avoidant, fearful, avoidant. We can go deep into the psychology of where this stems from. At the end of the day, this is leadership. This is when you take a sales staff, a sales team, a management team, a fixed operation team, and you start affecting them at a deeper level, and metaphorically through stories associate those things through what they got to do on a day-to-day. It makes a huge difference. I'll tie it down with this last thing, and then you can understand. If you and I, Michael, are in Colorado, and you and I are walking through the woods because we're scheduled to take a couple of trail walks, and we got some massive hikes. The first day we walk that hike, we're going along, everything is good. All of a sudden we see a grizzly. Right. I mean, a big freaking 8-foot grizzly. And we're like, oh shit. Oh my gosh. We're both standing still. We don't know what to do. He's growling. He's probably 20 feet from us. And you and I are both freaked the hell out. We're both freaked out. Eventually he turns around and runs off. We continue our hike. The next day we're scheduled for a hike. The minute we walk into that trail, what are you and I thinking about?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
belief, what belief do we have? We're looking for the
Yeah. We're
freaking
looking
bear.
for death.
Right. So my point is, my point is, when a sales associate, a manager, they're making follow up, they get rejected, they get no response. What belief are they developing the following day to do the same activities?
Right.
So my point is, from that metaphor, it's changing the belief system. You're not going to run into another freaking bear, and if you do, it's probably going to be okay, right? So it's not like you can't anticipate something that hadn't happened just because you have an experience of rejection. It's going to happen. We got to push forward. So again, when we're talking leadership, we're talking training and growth and persuasion and encouraging and loving and motivating and inspiring people to be better human beings that will help them be better professionally, that get the results we're looking for. That's a whole nother level than the bulldozer. That's a whole nother approach.
I mean, we could go another hour on this. We're not going to do that because I want to build the cliffhanger here. But I mean, it kind of ties into this concept of why training is so incredibly important. Because if I'm training for the things that I'm afraid of, and then I experience those things, then I know what to do, and it removes the sting a little bit from the failure. Most people are usually afraid of things they have not experienced and or have not repositioned around the things that they've experienced. Like you said, rejection. Every single one of us has experienced rejection, and yet somehow we're still afraid. And it's because we are not training around how to deal with it and or avoid it and or soften it and or reposition it. And the minute we start having communication around the things that we are afraid of, the more comfortable we are. It's like, I'm going to bring Emer back into it, but it's like, this guy knows what it's like to get punched in the face over and over and over again. Most people are afraid of getting punched in the face. He is no longer afraid of getting punched in the face because the sting of it, he already knows what it's going to feel like.
Right.
And as a result, his emotional response to that is so much more dull because he knows. In the same way, the minute as a sales professional, for example, I get comfortable or clear on the fact that I will face way more rejection than acceptance, and that the only way to getting acceptance is to pass through the rejection, and that I can poke and prod it and examine it and understand how I feel and my response to it, the easier it becomes to just pass through it all, because I can focus then on what you said, the outcome, right? I can focus on the result.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, again, from a salesperson, sales manager, even dealer principal perspective, general manager operating a car dealership, we grow what we sow. We grow what we sow. What are we sowing daily? What are the seeds we're planting, right? Whether that's seeds of prospecting, seeds of encouragement, seeds of inspiration, seeds of process, seeds of attitude. We grow what we sow. And what I call dragons and bears. What happens in a car dealership, what happens in life, for me, for you, for everybody. We got these dragons that we're trying to slay every day. These dragons are in our mind: the doubt, the uncertainty, the worry, the circumstance, the COVID-19, the election, the things we
Right.
have no control over. And then obviously we have the bears that we're fighting, which we just gave an illustration of again, what's in our head on a daily basis that we have to overcome. But at the end of the day, we've got many clubs in our bag as an operator, as a salesperson, as a manager, right? And we just got to get better with every club. We got to know when to hit the pitching wedge. We got to know when to take out the driver. We got to know when the 6-iron's more appropriate. And again, if we're not practice, drill, rehearse, we're talking about, we touched earlier about just about training. Training doesn't happen in a car dealership for various reasons, right? You got management staffs that currently don't have the time management to do it. Even if they do have the time management to do it, they don't have the acumen, the energy, the experience to print off PDFs, bring video to the equation, do it consistently,
Right.
and teach and coach and train on something that's unique and different in the car dealership. It's the
Yeah.
same old, same old, same old. And then dealers get upset because they're like, I'm paying you freaking 12 to 15 grand a month to make the gross, test the deals, submit the deals, train the people, close the people, do the things you're supposed to do. And I'm not paying somebody on the outside to come in and train my people when I'm paying you. Well, unfortunately, a dealer will never get the results he wants to unless there's some kind of action that's different within the store that the manager's not going to give. It's not that a manager's bad. It's not even that a manager may not be completely capable. At the end of the day, sales teams even managers need new ingredients to cook better meals. They need better recipes to create better dinners. The if I could, would you, and what's it going to take to earn your business, and the fact find, and the demo presentation, the trial close, and the write up the deal. They don't know they don't know new words, new tactics, and strategies to create more car deals with the customers that are in front of them, and they don't know how to prospect the service department, orphan owners, data mined to create these people to come back into the dealership that are already there. And it's very difficult and very frustrating. Even when I was an operator, as an operator, I always was the general manager and the owner. So I didn't give the responsibility to somebody else. But even then, if I'm dead honest, I personally took the charge to train the
Yeah.
sales team as the owner, because my
Right.
sales guys, A, weren't capable, and B, wouldn't make the time. And it's my name on the bill. It's Louie Herron Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. It's Louie Herron Toyota. By God, they're going to get my experience.
Right.
I have to teach these guys. So it was important to me to have the customer experience and the guys to be quick with rebuttals and know how to overcome objections and make more car deals, because it was the lifeblood of what we needed to do. And that's what's missing in the car dealership right now, whether it's the Ashberries, whether it's the Lithia groups, whether it's the Lee Automotive Group, you name it. There's a ton of phenomenal groups around the country. They're all struggling. They're all struggling with training, all of them. And again, most people don't want to pay the money for training because they're looking for the needle to move and they're looking for accountability, right?
Yeah.
They're not looking for a video series. They're not looking for Louie's Video University, Cardone University. That does not get the job done. I know it. They know it. Michael, you know it. It requires more involvement and more accountability to shift and move the needle. And it can be done, by the way. It definitely can be done.
Yeah. Well, we know it can be done. I mean, it's funny, you know, when we, as a quote unquote marketing company, go in store and we sit with these owners, it's funny. We always get introduced as, oh, hey, these are the marketing guys. But the minute that GM's door closes or that dealer principal's door closes, they're like, help us reorganize our entire business. Like they want to tap into the business acumen side. A lot of what you're saying resonates with me. And it's why I think it's so easy for us to understand sports analogies, right? Like anybody in business loves a good sports analogy, but I want to draw a parallel with what you're saying. First and foremost, you know, I just experienced this recently, a sales manager who's got 3,000 plates spinning, who's expected to do all these things. And you're telling me I got to come up with a training regiment? And you're telling me I got to do a daily meeting and figure out how to make that daily meeting more than just checking off a box and wasting everybody's time. And you're telling me I got to do all these things. And all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed. And by the way, being overwhelmed, normal human response. Not sitting down and having a meaningful discussion about what we're going to do to overcome that, not okay. That's what keeps you where you're at. But we love a sports analogy. And you made me think of sports, not that I'm a big sportsman, but the reality of it is, pick any sports team, pick any sport. There is a very real reason why each player is assigned a position and a role.
Right.
And oftentimes what happens, I think we misalign expectations. We go to a conference, we hear a great sports analogy, we come back to our store feeling all motivated and inspired, then not realizing that actually in our heart, we expect that one person to do every role. We expect them to know everything. And it's like, we're already broken. So I want to open the door here for you in this way to say, well, how can those listening and watching who are getting a sense of your strategy in your mind, who are wanting to go into 2025 with a reset, with a new position, with a stronger position or foundation, how do they connect with you? What's the best way to get in touch?
Well, let me just say this to those that are listening, that training is something that you feel like you're open-minded to, that you realize has to get done. Obviously, it has to be affordable. It has to make sense. There has to be accountability. And more importantly, the needle has to move, right? Like if somebody's in the store, something's got to change.
Right.
And I just want to say, you know, and what I would say, Michael, to everybody that's listening, if I had a box and I said, this is my 30 years of experience and I can show you how we can move the needle, my question to anybody listening is, would you be open-minded? Or would you defend what you already know? And let me just say that one more time. Would you be open-minded to hear what I have to say, or would you defend your 20 years of experience, which you already know? Because again, judgment and ego and fear keeps you stuck and keeps you safe. And so the car business is a very fraternal group. We all know a lot of the same things, but at the end of the day, I can assure anybody listening, I can assure you between a save a deal, a two-way sheet, a phone log, and processes, we can raise volume 20, 30 units without spending another penny in advertising. I see it happening. I already know. But if somebody's not open-minded, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. But to your question, if somebody wants to get a hold of me, they go to louieherron.com. At louieherron.com, you can check out any of the courses that I have, or as a dealer, you can, or general manager, you can contact me directly. You can go to any of my social mediums, whether they're at Louie Herron TV with YouTube. You can go at any LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. They're all there. And then I don't even mind giving you my direct cell phone number, 904-466-8931, 904-466-8931. I would love to have the opportunity to anybody that wants to get on a call and evaluate the processes, the people, the situation, whether we do business or not, it's irrelevant. I'll give you 30 minutes of my time. My time is very busy, but I will give you that time so we can analyze and see what is needed and if there's a decent fit. But at the end of the day, I can assure you training is imperative, but the right training is imperative. How often would the outside individual be in the store? How often would we be doing Zoom calls? How long are those Zoom calls? What are the contents of those Zoom calls? Is it structured? Those are the things that matter. At the end of the day, if your store is doing 100 within 90 days, if you're not doing $120, $130, we got a problem. We got a problem. And it's either going to come from two areas. Either it's coming from me and the content that I'm sharing, or it's coming from the team not embracing what I want and they're not helping me keep it accountable. That's it. Nothing else. Nothing else. So it would be my job, along with the dealer principal, to inspire, motivate, and encourage the team members to be like, hey guys, I got something that will take us to another level. It's going to require you to not defend what you currently know and be open to a new truth. If you're open to the new truth, allow me to infiltrate some of the beliefs and stories you have. We'll freaking rock and roll. We'll freaking rock and roll. I've seen it, Michael, with many. I have an 18-year-old kid that's in Tifton, Georgia. 18 years old, this kid. And I won't say his name. Well, his name is Landon. I don't mind telling you. But Landon, 18 years old, was selling 6-7 cars a month, been doing it 4 or 5 months. Guy's a 20-car a month guy. 20-car a month guy.
Wow.
And listen, he's green. He's a young kid. He doesn't have stories and experiences to share with his 45-year-old customers. But strategies, processes, things he's doing is making. And I can give you a litany of other guys. Same thing. So it's again, if somebody wants to reach me, you've got my number. Again, louieherron.com. Love to help you in any way, shape, or form. You may catch a webinar. And I've got podcasts for free. You still get content. The Sales CEO podcast or the Louie Herron podcast, which is on every medium you can look for. Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, whatever. You got them all there.
Love it, man. Louie Herron, thanks so much for joining me on the Dealer Playbook Podcast.
You got it, buddy. Thanks, Michael.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Dealer Playbook Podcast. If you enjoyed tuning in, please subscribe, share, and hit that like button. You can also join us and the DPB community on social media. Check back next week for a new Dealer Playbook episode. Thanks so much for joining.